So this is
Cindy and Jim, please for helping.
This is Cindy, and I know Cindy from King's Table, where we have a lovely community gathering where we eat, we have games as well, and Cam and JPDL have been coming along to do this creative writing with them. So this is what Cindy has prepared. So my mother brought me from Los Angeles, America, to Gloucester when I was 8.
My American passport been stolen 40 years.
Okay.
Yeah, not go everywhere.
Okay.
I don't want to go everywhere.
No, you want to stay, you like it here. Then my mother took me to my family house in Cheltenham. My mum had 2 husbands. My real dad was British, but he died when I was 14. My mum married a second time. Her second husband was American.
Yeah.
He was nice. Yeah. My mum had 9 children.
Oh, nice.
7 boys
Me like
and 2 girls. They're all in heaven apart from Cindy. A big family. I am the only one left on earth. They are in heaven. I have a big family too. I had 4 children in England, 2 boys and 2 girls. A success.
Yeah.
I have lived in Cheltenham for 40 years. My 4 children have grown up and are all alive. They all have their own families in London. My children, my relatives, my wider family, I don't know where they are. It's complicated and it makes me crazy.
Yeah,
I miss them.
Crazy by myself.
Yeah.
Company, people.
Yeah.
Outside home.
Yeah. She misses them and she gets lonely, don't you?
So Max is getting this with JPDL, help?
Yeah. It's a little thing Richard and myself wrote about some experiences back in 1990, and it's called Call Up. I was apprehensive when I first got called up. I was with 4626 Air Evacuation Squadron. This was a medical unit. The army goes out to kill them, we go out to save them. In 1990, I was 40 years old, a lot older now. War started in 1991. You can't argue, you just got to go. The Gulf War, Desert Storm. I think I'm one of the oldest ones left. I don't see many of my old ones now. Here's a true story. You might not find it funny, but if you've got the army thing, you will find it good. 2 lads and an officer came through our medical unit. I asked one of the lads, "What's wrong with your officer?" "Well, I think he must have upset one of his troops." Because it did happen out there. Because the other one turned to me and said, "He's been shot in the arse." And I found out I didn't use it. Because I was ex-army as well. You can't enjoy war. Nobody enjoys war. It's a hell. But it was a hell of an experience that I went through. And I enjoyed all my military days. Especially going out, picking up injured people, bringing them back, and getting them back home to see their loved ones. So thank you very much for listening.
I know Dave was talking about, Dave Clark here from Trinity, something about faith, which I put together the other night, about 3 or 4 hours, putting together and making a few alterations. Also, I was speaking to some people about a month ago and they were saying, quite a few internationals here would like to know a bit about the English language and things like that. I was thinking, well, so the 2 topics I've got are going back between 1,000 years and 2,000 years. So actually, we're going back a bit. Also, I know France has been mentioned, I've got a few points here as well. So I'll crack on with about England, Union and language. and there's so much information on this, I should hasten to add, that actually trying to pinpoint pieces and actually so much information to put together, it would be so long and you could write a book on it. So I've actually pinpointed a few pieces of information which I think that's more of interest. Welcome to England. England is a comparatively small island nation located in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Population nearly 70 million. England is located in Western Europe and a separate island within the Greater United Kingdom, much smaller than many of the European neighbours, and also with a slightly larger population, you could say, in terms of area than many of our European neighbours. Close to France and having spoken French for 300 years, not a lot of people know that, after the Norman conquest, quite an invaded land, with approximately 60% of the land mass, that's England, 60%, is located in Western Europe, but once bordered France. So we didn't have to go, didn't have to go across the river, the Channel, close to the, even closer to the wider continent. Britain has had conflicts with France over the centuries. In 1337, the 100-Year War began. It started with King Edward III of England, who tried to invade France. Well, that didn't have a very good end. 116 years later, France won and settled over Britain and all over our culture. Something still happens to this day. England borders Scotland up in the far north and Wales to the west. England derives its name, another bit of a European influence here, from the Angles, land of the Angles, a Germanic tribe who settled during the 5th and 6th centuries. So German and French influence here all around us. In the 21st century, European dominance is nothing new. We have welcomed our overseas neighbours and embraced cultures and been more open and accepting to French people than perhaps non-natives are to France over the decades. And there's quite a few French people living here as well, especially in and around London. The Kingdom of England, which included Wales after 1535, ceased to be a separate sovereign state on the 1st of May 1707, when the Acts of Union brought into effect political union with the United Kingdom of Scotland, which created Great Britain. Present day situation. And as you may have been well aware of, the Scottish National Party, for the last few years, been talked about an awful lot, has been promoting an independence cause for over 10 years with a rather close referendum in 2014. This remains a potential divisive subject to this day, and the Union could still be under threat in the future if politicians fail to invest in Scottish causes, livelihoods and industry. I expect looking closely at this new government as well. The Romans invaded Britain and stayed for over 500 years, making their presence felt over the centuries, which is still evident today. And you can tell that, as you know, if you go to Bristol and Cirencester is one place not that far away, an old Roman city. The Romans did make their mark on this country. Notable key dates and events, there's a few here of the many. Roman invasion was 43 AD. The Romans conquered most of England, naming towns, cities and building roads and small towns for their inhabitants. The Norwegian invasion, 1066, French became a major language, the same time as the Battle of Hastings. The 1086 was the Domesday Book. 1649, Britain became a republic when King Charles I had his head cut off. It was a republic until 1660. So back in history, we were a republic. 1666, the Great Fire of London. 1665-66 was the Great Plague, and that went from London all the way up north, on a bit of linen apparently, many years ago. 1834, the slavery was finally abolished following the Slave Trade Act of 1807. It had taken 18 years, up to 1807, to pass. Nothing new there then, but contentious and lengthy public resolutions. 1966, the Northern Ireland conflict began. Until 1998, that went on when the peace process was signed, but not to 100% peace in Northern Ireland. As you know, to this day, there's still problems over there. 1990, the Channel Tunnel building started, finished in 1994. That's the direct railway link from London to Paris across the, well, below the Channel. And 2020, Britain left the EU after 47 years. Local history, Tewkesbury. You probably heard of the medieval festival, well, the War of the Roses, 1455-1487. Battle of Tewkesbury, commemorated every year, 1471. House of that's between the House of Lancaster and the House of York. The battle is reenacted each summer in Tewkesbury during the rather authentic medieval festival. I think it's on about mid-July, if ever want to visit. This was rooted in the economic and social troubles caused by the 100-Year War with France. That went on from 1337 to 1453, lasting 116 years, as I say, as France won. Does all this remind you of anything today? The war of suffering, still fighting over territory and economics and oppression. English accents. The spoken English accent not only varies around native Britain, but also in other counties where English is generally spoken, and also there's countries where English is used in general, such as USA, Canada and Australia, and there's also dialects there as well, different dialects, and you could normally tell where people are from. Regional dialects in the UK though, they do actually vary, and some of you from any of you from abroad may not realise, but if you go to Lancashire, there's actually differences in the accents, like Yorkshire, between the different towns. Bolton, Rochdale and Manchester, for example, up north, being all different places in the same county, but actually slightly different accents. Probably we couldn't tell unless we actually were up there for a time or lived up there. And like I say, the same can be said about Yorkshire. Differences in word and sound with distinct variation from place to place, which can confuse those of us not from the actual area. As alluded to earlier, frightful for some thinking of World War II, English is a West Germanic language. If you go back far enough, the Indo-European language family. But I was actually once told by a Welsh retired school teacher that the English, and he actually lived in Yorkshire for about 20 years, when he was a teacher, said to me that it was actually started in Yorkshire by the peasants. So I don't know how true that was or not, but that's the English language where it began apparently. As you can tell, our ties with Europe are nothing new, and they go back far further than the Treaty of Rome, 1956, and are joining the EEC as it was in 1973, long before most of us were born, all these other historical events where we had a contention with the French. Speakers called Anglophones originated in early medieval England, the namesake of the language of Angles, A-N-G-L-E-S. This is one of the ancient Germanic peoples that migrated to Britain, as with so many other people over the centuries. English has become the most widely spoken language in the world. The third most spoken native language after Mandarin, Chinese that is, and Spanish, because notice French is not mentioned here. And you may ask how there are more native speakers of these other languages. Well, it's to do with population size and the amount of people who speak the native tongue. You can imagine China's got a massive population. English is, however, the most widely learned second language, with more second language speakers than native speakers. So, as you can imagine, most parts of the world there is some form of English spoken, even if it's pidgin English or whatever else. But it's quite important to learn these days for business and everything else. Estimated to be 2.5 billion people worldwide speaking as a second language, and the main lingua franca for the European Parliament and the United Nations, as well as being one of the official languages for the Olympic Games, Paralympics, and in aviation as well. But French was also used for specific events and still is, Olympic Games, and also our old laws were actually written in French on parchment. Over the centuries, well, they still are, Old English evolved from Germanic dialects spoken by the Anglo-Saxons, and later grammar and vocabulary from Old Norse. That was a North Germanic language. But with continued French influence, Middle England borrowed words extensively from the French dialects, as well as Latin, which was a total of 56% of the language put together. And French vocabulary is still used today, and incorporated into our language some way. We've got a lot of French words actually in this, which we don't even know about some of them. We've got, and that will all coming after the Norman Conquest, and basically some examples to include art, competition, force, machine, table, and various other forms in language. And basically,
That's the time explains
Yeah.
more names than it. So
yeah,
perhaps move to the last bit of that. Wrap it up.
yeah, no. Most Jews are not conscious in the fact that the words actually originate from the French language.
Thank you.